All right, we're going to be in your workbooks. We're going to be on page 85. So we should have workbooks out. You need to have your workbook out. And open to page 45. 85, sorry. 85.
58.
Switch it. Dyscalculia is a thing, but we're not going to pretend to have disabilities if we don't.
Whoa, language, buddy, language.
I don't know, he's just trying to get you in trouble. Shock. Shock. I was say, if needed to, I can always, grab the recording off of here and listen to it. 'Cause that was right here.
I think you should, actually, unless I misheard.
All right, so this is the actual data from the Titanic. There were 2,201 people on board that boat. And this is the information about who survived and who did not. So, the claim that we're going to be investigating today is that the crew members were more likely to survive than any class of passenger. So take a minute to look at this table and see if we can figure out why they're making this claim. What makes them think that the likelihood a crew member survived might be higher than for anybody else? I mean, it did hit an iceberg. All right, we're not doing conspiracies on why or why not it crashed. It still broke.
Didn't they get like a signal? Like there's an iceberg in front of them before they hit it?
Yes.
So you could just...
To be fair, it was a still dark night. They probably still would not have been able to see it. The problem was that they did not have any binoculars for the lookouts, and they were going too fast through the iceberg zone. Because it could have it was a very tragic accident that did not need to happen. This was not a natural disaster where we could not avoid it. It could have been avoided. It wasn't. That is irrelevant to the claim we're looking at here. We can talk conspiracy theories at the end if you would like to. But let's go through the mathy parts first. So why do you think someone might make this claim? Look at the survivors numbers. Which group had the most people that survived?
First class. Oh, no, the crew.
There were more crew members that survived. There's 212 crew members that survived.
So the crew members watch everybody die.
They probably thought because they would be more experienced about the ship.
Maybe. But also, look, there's more crew members in total than there were of anything else. So I can see what makes them think this might be true. So there are more crew members that survived than of any other group, and there are more crew members than of any other group. So I can understand why we might make the claim that there's a higher probability that a crew member survived than anything else, than any other class of passenger. So what we're going to do is we're going to see if that is or is not true. So we're going to find the probability that a first-class passenger survived and the probability that a second-class passenger survived. Okay, so that's what we're going to work on. So how could I figure out the probability of someone surviving if I know they are a first-class passenger? So let's look at my rich folks. So if you watch the movie, this would be our Kate Winslet's, our Miss Molly Brown. First class, the rich folks. This would be the fiance, whose name I can't remember. Yeah. At that point, they were.
I think it was all.
Mostly
I have not seen that information, but I believe that to be correct.
it's correct.
Okay.
It was 1912, right?
To be fair, they were sailing from Ireland, so it's
Oh, that's
pretty.
White.
It's a pretty caucastic country. So, what is, of these rich folks, only looking at the rich folks, so I don't care about anybody else, what is the probability they survived? How could I put that together into like a fraction? I haven't done probability in a hot minute. So, probability they survived. So let's look at first class. I'm going to change again.
Like overall or just in first class?
Let's look for first class survivors. So in first class, only in first class. I don't care about second class or third class or the crew right now. I'm just looking at my first class.
Okay, because that you could have gotten into the class.
Yes, not doing first class survivors out of boat. We're looking at probability that they survived if we know they're in first class, given first class. So how many people are there in first class?
325.
And how many survivors were there in first class?
203.
So 203 out of 325 people survived, right? So the way we build this as a probability is we say 203 out of 325, and we put it as a fraction. And then to get that as a probability, a decimal, you're going to type the thing in the calculator. What is 203 divided by 325?
No difference to the calculator.
0. Point what? 62. So what is that as a percent?
62%.
Yeah, it's about 62% of first class passengers survived. We know they're in first class, these rich folks, 62% of them survived. So let's look at our group of normal people, like average folks. Let's look at our second class. We don't need to make this be a racial situation, folks, y'all.
There's still Caucasians from Ireland. People don't even say it.
The middle class.
The middle class, the normal people, like the regular folks, average. They have their own room for just their family, but it didn't have like separate bathrooms and sitting areas and blah, 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 blah. Plain rooms. So, how would we build this probability? How would I figure out what is the probability someone in second class survived?
118 out of 285.
118, my number of second class survivors, out of 285. There's 285 people in my second class. So what is our decimal?
I would know because he's holding the calculator.
Dude, I have like 30.
He has the group calculator.
No. Yeah, do it in your head. What is it?
Give me a
One
second.
for you and one for you.
And me.
So what is our decimal?
He already has a calculator.
Oh.
41.
Ooh, I think you got it upside down.
1.
Little one on the top. 118 divided by 285.
You did the opposite.
Do it upside down.
0.41%.
Point, ooh.
Gas does.
0.41. What percent?
41.
41%, not 0.41%.
No, I was talking about the overs. The decimal. No, I was like 0.41.
0.41,
Yeah.
and then as a percent, 41%.
41%.
So there's a difference between 0.41 and 41%. And there's a difference between 0.41 and 0.41%. So be careful with that. It's really easy to get mixed up on those. So then let's look at our broke folk. Third class.
Uh-oh.
Best parties ever.
The usual suspects.
And actually, I've seen that band live, and they are so amazing.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite bands. They're called Gaelic Storm, and they're epic. So our third class. How are we gonna put that one together?
170.
Out of 706. Jeez.
706.
That's gonna be a low one.
That should be 25.2. I never said percent. 0.25.
Yeah, it's 1.25. 0.25?
I was gonna say, type it in the calculator.
Yeah,
It's right here. I'm right. I don't know what you're looking at.
I'm right. What's up?
Less than
So what percent of third class passengers survived?
25%.
25%.
Pretty good odds.
So let's check our crew. Now we're getting up to the claim that was made. The claim was made, yeah. 1 out of 4 of the third class passengers survived.
So for every 4 people, only 1 survived. R.I.P.
All right, let's check our crew. Let's see what's happening here. We know crew has the most people that survived, but was it the best odds of survival, the best probability? How are we going to put it together?
22%.
Yeah, we're going to put our 212 out of 885.
Dang, 23%.
0.23, which gave us our...
The crew should have been 100%. Except for Steve.
It's
I mean, there were a whole lot of people in that.
24%.
Is it 24?
24%.
For a decade ago. I'm not sure.
It's 9.
Okay.
0.08.
Give me a second, I'll probably in a second. Oops, I got this. You said 2.4? Watch your rounding, because I've had it's changed to 0.24. Watch your rounding.
I don't know how to round.
Well, we need to look at that then. Because we should be at 24%. So, did the crew have a higher probability of survival?
No.
No. They, in fact, had the lowest probability of survival. What is the probability of anyone on board the boat surviving? What's the probability of surviving?
You're guaranteed to survive. You're
Really?
You're guaranteed to die.
Really?
Yeah.
I had people that made
It's
it.
like 32%.
How'd you put it together?
711
Yeah, we took our total number of survivors
divided by 20.
out of our 2,201 humans on board. And we got about what percent of people, or what was our decimal here?
0.323.
323. So about 32% of people on board the boat survived. They only saved 32%. Huh? So looking at this, is there anything you wonder about this information?
Yeah.
Like what?
Why didn't they just pay attention for the iceberg?
I mean, it's a valid question, and that was what like all the newspapers and things were saying. Why were they going so fast? Because they were trying to surprise the newspapers and show that this giant ship could go fast, so he hit the speed maximum. He didn't play it safe. He's trying to show off. Killed a lot of people. All right. Hold on just a second. Yeah. I'm a little surprised the crew had the most deaths.
Yeah, down with the ship.
I mean, not all of them did.
Do you think that since they're working on the ship, we had like when they realized the ship was sinking, that they still have that mindset to save the passengers or themselves?
Well, okay.
Some of them were working really hard to save as many passengers as they could.
Ew,
because they were so sure that they, like, the ship wasn't really gonna go down. Like, they really, really did not think that the boat could sink. It was billed as unsinkable. When they bought their tickets, it said the unsinkable Titanic.
Yeah, he did mock God after us.
Yeah, we better
You got full box pieced up, 200 pounds.
They should, and in fact, that is law now, but it was not law at the time. In fact, the reason they didn't have enough lifeboats is because they didn't think they needed them because they didn't think there was any way that the boat could sink, because it took, I believe, reaching 5 compartments for it to sink, and it reached 6. I believe.
Okay, so there was no Americans on the ship?
6.5.
That is not what we said. Molly Brown, who's an American, was on the ship.
Was the owner on the ship?
6.5.
No, the owner of the White Star Line was not on the ship. You're thinking of the Titan, the submersible, the little sub that went down. That was the owner that was inside the ship. So you can see all this in Kodak. Like, they put all the data in here. So this is the same thing as our two-way table. The reason I didn't have us do it in here is it's not super intuitive to find those percents.
And it's not interactive like we are.
Because I can have it show the percents, but these aren't quite the ones that we have. This shows, it's sideways from what we had first of all. So we have survivors here and not survivors here. And if I just hit percent like this is showing the percent of survivors that are crew and the percent of survivors that are second class, etc. I can do it with columns and have it switch that way. So it shows me how my second class was split among survivors and not survivors. I can show how my first class was split among survivors and not survivors. So we can see all kinds of different things, or I can do individually. So the reason I didn't have us do it in CODAP is it'll find these percentages for us, but we have to be able to read these tables really, really good. So there's one other piece of information that's really kind of cool in CODAP that I can do with this, is we have a little bit more information in here than we did on our two-way table that we had. That's what that box is called, the two-way table. And what I have here is I have their genders.
Genders?
Yep. Do you have any prediction about who survived more, women or men?
I'll be
But
honest.
they did say
the
women and
female-
children first.
No. The female survived the most because the male was busy saving kids.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this there in the middle. And what that did is that put colored dots. So the purple dots are women. And the orange dots are men.
Well.
Good grief. I was great.
What do we notice there? What's up?
Because the males.
Say it again.
Speak up, nephew.
Wait. What's the orange again?
Orange is men.
The man.
Purple is women.
In depth?
These it's still divided the same. These are deaths on the bottom, survives on the top.
Okay. Oh.
You see them.
It's definitely women, obviously. You
So
can
they
see.
the men sacrifice
When they were loading the boats, they did try and put the women and the children in there first because their theory was that the men would survive the cold water for a little bit longer
Yeah.
because they had warmer clothes.
Or were they acoustic?
Wow.
Acoustic?
No. Well, I'm not sure what you
Acoustic?
mean by acoustic.
You know what I mean.
No. What are you trying
I was like,
to
what are we
say?
trying to say?
He's trying to sell them mental.
I don't want to use
mentality.
the R word, so I'm not going to say that.
That is a word we do not use. We do not
That's why you
use
said
slurs.
mentally
You're saying
challenged.
how
That
they
you are
sound.
saying an unplugged guitar.
That is what it is.
That is what you said.
Yeah.
An acoustic guitar isn't like the wooden ones.
I thought you were on TikTok. You should know what acoustic is, though, right?
I'm apparently on a very different side of TikTok from you because I'm against with the people who are advocating and being kind and sharing charities and raising money for that
Somebody's
kind of thing.
mentally challenged.
So we're not gonna. One, I'm gonna just say this to remind you. My son is on the spectrum, therefore is autistic. Would that be the word we're looking for? Autistic. My son is autistic.
What?
Thank you. We're gonna go ahead and not use that.
I don't like
Thanks. So, Just
Just
saying.
say unintelligent.
Better choices on our words. I know sometimes we're trying to be funny, but
They
it's not.
had different morals.
Different moral
So
alignment.
there's different ways we can do things in CodeApp, and I don't know if you saw how I did this and got the different colors to show up. Is I took the gender and I put it in the middle, and that's what made it color code like this. So if you notice, there's still a lot of men in that crew who survived and who did not survive. There were only 3 female crew members who passed away in the sinking. There were only 3. But to be fair, there were only what, like 12 females on the crew to begin with?
Right, let's say they're allowed to work.
They were often in the laundry, or they were things like ladies' maids or serving tea or things like that. So, look at the first class, people who did not survive. There were only 4 rich women who didn't make it. Only 4 rich women.
Wait, rich or witch?
Rich. In the first class.
I thought you said witch. I was like, what?
That's when it helps to actually listen to the words I'm saying and not what the people around you are saying. I can only be so loud. I'm still recovering from that cold. It's still living here in my voice.
I wish I was still there.
So, there's all kinds of interesting things we can see, even in these two-way tables and looking like this. Okay? Questions on these things right here? We're not done. This side. Okay. Because what we're going to do is we're actually going to use some data from our class that we're going to collect right now to analyze a little bit more. Boop. So, most of us know which hand we have that's dominant. Right hand versus left hand. That'll be the hand that you write with. So, how many people use their right hand to write? Use your right hand to write. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Are you going to count yourself in both?
Oh, sorry.
Everybody here taking right hand.
Are you going to count yourself in both?
I can. It's not. And it depends on what I'm doing. If we're writing, I'm right-handed, but if I'm shooting, I'm left.
That often happens, and that's actually often relevant to what we're going to talk about in a second.
So, it
So,
depends on.
writing, who is left-handed?
I can do both. It's just.
Right, left hand.
All right. So then, yeah, if you're ambidextrous, go left-handed on this. So I'm going to take the 3 of you as left-handed. Just because, honestly, we need the people. So, what was that?
It's harder than what I can do. I'm used to writing with.
Then what we're going to do is, I don't know if you know this, but your eyes have a dominance as well. One of your eyes is more dominant than the other.
Yeah, my right eye does more dominant.
So the way you check that and find out which eye is more dominant, because unless you do like shooting sports, like archery or rifles or things like that, accuracy-based shooting sports, you're very unlikely to test for it, because it really only matters when you're taking like a scope or aiming like an arrow. Use one eye, or down a scope or something like that. You need to know which eye is stronger. So the way you can tell which eye is more dominant, use this little purple pin right here. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your arms out, and you're going to make a triangle with your hands. And you're going to put that purple pin in your triangle. And then you're going to make your triangle as small as you can, while you can still see that purple pin. And then you are going to keep that purple pin inside your triangle, and you are going to bring it all the way into your base. And it's going to wind up directly in front of one of your eyes. So you're going to make a triangle with your hands, all the way out. Focus on something real small. Shrink it in, as small as you can make it.
Definitely my right eye.
Shrink it. Moses, you forgot to shrink it. Make your triangle as small as you can. And then bring it in, and it'll wind up in front of one eye. Oh my gosh.
I already know what
I was
my
gonna say,
eye
yeah,
is.
or you can do the shrink it in and then close one and see which one it moves.
It's my left.
Well, I already know because I'm from shooting
Yeah.
sports. So, I kind of already rigged it from the start.
So, how many people wound up with their left eye being the one that you brought up in front of? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 20 people here. So that means how many people wound up with right eye dominant? If we have 20 people here? 15. So I'm going to use my 3 people that were left-handed. 1, 2, 3. How many of you guys wound up with left eye as well? Just the one. So, how many left-handed people wound up with their right eye dominant? Yeah, because we know there were 3 total people that said left hand. So there have to be 2 people in this row right here, because it's kind of like Sudoku, where it has to line up columns and rows. So I know that one person was both left hand and left eye. So since I have 5 people that were left eye dominant, how many people were right hand at the same time? 4. So how many people were right hand and right eye? 13. So that's why this is called a two-way table. It learns a whole lot of, it shows you a whole lot of information about 2 different categories of data. I know about people's handedness and I know about people's eye dominance. So, what percent of our class, this is a question that's on the page here, is both left hand and left eye dominant? How would we set that up as a fraction? How many people are both left hand and left eye? 1. Out of how many people? In the class. Out of 20 people. So what percent? What is 1 out of 20 as a percent? So our decimal is 0.05. So what is our percent? 5%. So 5% of people in this class are both left hand and left eye dominant. What percent of the class is, so the next question is, what percent of the class is left eye dominant? How would we set that one up? Yeah. We're looking at the class. So we know we're looking at all 20 people, and we're looking for our left eye dominant people. I don't care about their handedness. I just care about their left eye dominance. So we have our 5 out of the 20. So what is our percent here? Yeah. That's the same thing as 1/4. So we have 0.25, which means we're at 25%. All right, and so our bottom one is a little bit different. It's a little bit harder, and it's our last one today. So we have 2 questions here. We have what percentage of the left-hand dominant students, so we're looking at left-hand dominant students, are also left eye dominant. So what percent of left-handed students have left eye dominance? How would I build that one? I'm looking at my left-hand students. So are we looking at the row or are we looking at the column? Are we looking at the row or are we looking at the column? If we're looking at the left-hand students. Look at this. It says of the left-hand dominant students. So looking at the left-hand dominant students. So are we looking at the row or are we looking at the column? The row. Just nobody said it. So we're looking at the row. So what is the probability that they're also left eye dominant? 1 out of the 3. So then the second question in here was, what percentage of left eye dominant students? So now are we looking at the row or are we looking at the column? If we're looking for the left eye dominant people. The column. So what percentage of them are also left-handed? How would we set that one? 1 out of 5. So we're looking at the same people. We're still focusing on our left-handed left eye person. They're still the topic. We're just looking at them in different groups. So of the people that are left-hand dominant, we actually had way fewer of them. It's more rare. Left eye dominance, honestly, mostly because it didn't wound up quite so persecuted because it's not near so visually apparent. But for a long time, they wouldn't let people write with their left hands. Yes.
Yeah.
They thought it was wizardry, demons, or bad spirits. Witchcraft. Whatever particular reason. History is interesting in sometimes many ways. So we're looking at these two different populations. Okay? So reading these two-way tables is all about reading the specific words. It's going carefully and looking at things. Okay? So that's it for today. So we technically have 3 homework assignments this week, mostly because 8.5 we talked about on Friday a little bit, but we did not really have time to work on it. So 8.5, 8.6, and 8.7 are all this week. Next week we'll be still doing notes and kind of wrapping up the unit, and then the week after that is when we'll do our project. Okay, so you guys have some time now. If you have not done 8.5, now's a great time to do so. If you have done so, go look at 8.6. And all that jazz.